It is, depending on where you are, it is either really late or really early. I tend to generally wake up about this time in the morning, and I'm actually, well, I took a nap, did a little ritual actually, took a nap, and then got back up because it is, it's Holy Week as the world sees it, depending on your traditions. We have our set traditions that we do here in Chenu. As a Khametic faith practitioner, um, I also follow certain Orisha traditions, but principally as a Chenu faith practitioner, um, I honor this particular time of year. But yesterday was Monday, Thursday, Holy Thursday, and today is Good Friday. Now, what does that have to do with the Kemetic tradition? Well, let me just tell you, overall, there are a lot of people who consider this to be a day that is truthfully pretty dangerous for a lot of faith practitioners because for those who do a lot of dark workings, it is a time that they take advantage of because they will really uh, do a lot of workings against people. This is true because they consider that Jesus is not there, he's not in the grave. And so they feel that for those who believe in Jesus, that their God is not protecting them. So they're just going to live it up and do a lot of evil workings. Um, well, let me just tell you our approach. Um, First of all, I explained the other night that personally for me, um, I don't have any beef with Jesus. All right. There are a lot of people who go into this whole argument about whether he existed or not. Listen, y'all go get caught up in that. All right. I do happen to believe that he reincarnated many times on this planet. As a youth, had my personal experience with him, and over in the years, have found that he has returned to my life many times. Renee, how are you? It's good to see you. I was so glad that you wrote to me. And if you feel that you need to talk, certainly that you can, and don't let any finances deter you. If you need to reach out to me, certainly you can at any time, okay? So, um, anyway, and I do believe that he existed under many guises over the years. The Necharu, um, Orisha, they come to us over and over again in um, in various forms. They become gods in the flesh, and even in the Bible, when and we won't get into the whole thing about the Bible and how that piece of literature has been jacked up over and over again, and how it's been borrowed from various pieces of literature from Kemet, um, reworked, and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. But it does say in the New Testament, there's one point where someone asks Jesus, "Are you Elijah?" uh, evidently they believed in reincarnation too. But uh, I talked the other night about how in the um, various traditions like Candomblé and also in Umbanda and Kimbanda, where it's believed that that big Jesus that's on display in Brazil is actually Oxalá. So, whatever the case, I just say we shouldn't knock one another for what we believe. And uh, I also shared about, uh, I'm one of those people who believes that Mary Magdalene was his beloved, and that he did have children. And I also believe that the saint who became known as La Santa Sara La Kali was his daughter, and I have a really wonderful relationship with that saint, and I know her by her Khametic name, which is part of my new book, and uh, her power is just tremendous, and the prayers that I do to her are tremendous. And so, if you want to try to deny me and tell me my experience with her is not real, listen, that's on y'all. You know, whatever. But anyway, here's what I'm getting at. There are those who uh, look at this time of year as one where they can do a lot of high magic from a negative standpoint and do a lot of dastardly work. And so it's best to protect yourself, whatever the case. Now, from the comedic standpoint, we look at the lore that existed. You always, whatever the culture is, you look at the lore. As a storyteller, that I can tell you that that's the best thing to do. You always look at the story. As African people, as as people from whatever part of the world you're in, you always look at the lore. We look at the story of Wasir, who the Greeks called Osiris, who many know today as Asar, but the name was spelled with a w sound. Wasir. We like the power of the name Wasir. This cross, by the way, is a Rosicrucian cross. I'm Rosicrucian, okay, and I've been for a long time. Um, uh, and this that I wear is not because I'm an Aries. I wear this for um, our huntresses in our tradition, Zatit and Anket, but principally for Zatit, and she um, has the bow and arrow. Anyway, but in the stories, at this time of year, since we honor it, okay, the flow of the seasons that are concurrent, you have the battle with Satesh and with Heru, the son of Wasir. And there is a true battle for the soul of Wasir, who is languishing in the Duat. And, I'll get more into that story on over the next couple of days. I said I was going to do it today, but I think today is more important for me to get into why you should be worrying about protecting yourself and your stuff, because of the fact that whether you know it or not, you may have somebody who's an enemy who is working on trying to jack up your stuff. All right. So in this story, you have the battle of Satesh, who is battling for the throne against his nephew Heru. Now, Heru is the one who was the rightful owner of the throne because it belonged to his father, Wasir. Wasir lost the throne because he was not minding the store. He should have been focusing on the throne, maintaining the throne, and also protecting the people of Kemet and of the best thing that was going on for the world, truthfully, because that was his function. He was challenged to living up to the best of himself through Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar gets accused of being this harlot. That wasn't her function. I'll get into that probably tomorrow. Um, but whatever the case, he did not do what he was supposed to do, and he was doing a great job as a king. He was a wonderful ruler. His name is found throughout the world, and to this day in various places. But whatever the case, he is the example of what happens when you don't embrace your shadow. Satesh represents your shadow run amok when you don't embrace all of yourself, when you don't look at all those kind of dark, creepy places within yourself and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm not great at this, or I like to pretend that this part of myself doesn't ex- doesn't exist, or this I like to pretend this part of myself exists. I like to pretend this part of myself does not exist, but it does. That's what I want to say. And Satesh was the dark part of Wasir. This was his brother. You know, he was kind of funny looking, and here is Wasir, who was known as the perfect black. He was this great ruler, beloved. You know, you would think of him as like the dashing uh, hero. But he had this dark part of himself that he had this lust for never had to that he shouldn't have had, and whatever the case, it ends up with his uh, giving into this lust, losing his immortality, becoming mortal, and having the dark part of himself then killing him twice, and um, his soul ends up going into the duat, um, the dark part of hell, if you will. This is the highly truncated version of the story, just so I can get to the point. And so now his wife brings forth his seed. Again, this is a highly truncated version of the story. His seed is Heru. Heru is there to become the savior of Kemet. And because Satesh has taken over the throne, he is like Trump. Okay, he's just run amok. He's just has no business taking over the throne. But you can, but in this situation, it's a thing where he is angry because the fact that he has been highly disrespected. Again, I'll break down the story probably tomorrow. But getting to the point, Satesh represents what happens this time of year, where there are people who are just running amok with the dark arts and who are just doing all kinds of what would be called iniquity, and that they have no business doing against people who don't deserve it and who can really jack up your stuff. This is why it's important for you to do protection rituals against those who are set out to harm you. Now, if you look at the story, it is not just about the fact that Satesh is running amok, because he's already killed his brother twice, who is now languishing in the Duat. And in some stories, he's also so out there, he has forgotten who he is. It is also that he is battling his nephew. His nephew has grown to be a man, and he himself is angry because of the fact that he has been raised as this commoner, knowing good and well that the throne belongs to him. His mother, Osset, who the Greeks called, what do they call her? Isis, has raised her son to become a warrior. And go get that. Go and get that. Go get what belongs to us. Go get what is rightfully yours. Get that throne back. Her name is the throne. So she has raised him with throne consciousness, and not from a place of vindictiveness, but from a place of what is rightfully so. Because what is in her heart, ma'at, or ma'at, as many people mispronounce it, but ma'at is in her heart. And so, even though for him, he is coming from a place of anger, it's righteous anger, because, listen, I'm here as a commoner, which he needed to have the experience of, because he should not have come from a place of selfishness, but from a place of what was right for the people. To have a righteous ruler instead of this ruler Satesh, who was furious, who brought chaos, and who was a hard taskmaster. So he needed to have the experience among the people, so he could understand the needs of the people. Okay, um, but also he was having a better understanding of what the human experience was as well, along with his mother. All right. So because here they were gods or goddesses in the goddess in the flesh. Okay. Now here's the point of all of this. There are African traditions, in like the Orisha tradition, where with some they will be at rest all week. During this week, we honor the whole thing about contrition, going within and seeing where we need to go before our Netcharu and see where we need to ask for forgiveness. Now, there are some people, if you see some scholars, they say the Kamites were these very bold, conceited people who never asked for forgiveness of anything. That's not true. And there were those who say that the word contrition and forgiveness never even existed in the Khametic language. That's not true either, because shafit is a word for contrition, but there's also a word for confidence. You know, the two existed together. But contrition existed. They would ask for contrition. In fact, there is a prayer where a man ended up being struck blind because of something he did wrong, and he prayed to the Nechurt. Oh, I can't believe the name is not coming to mind. Uh, what's her name? She was a serpent deity, uh, to restore his vision, and she did. And so he wrote a thank you note to her, and begged for her forgiveness. Um, but contrition did exist. And it was understood that you better have contrition if you wanted to have a working relationship with the Necheru, you know? So, um, so anyway, so with many of our Orisha traditions during this week, the idea is that you, in honor of the fact that many of them do honor Jesus, and because of that, the idea is that you just don't do anything. All you do is pray for contrition, and you leave the practice alone, okay, out of respect. And that's a beautiful thing. Um, I remember a couple years ago, I was, this whole thing of my recovering from all the trauma that I've experienced. Um, I went to a friend who's a Babalao, and so um, he hooked me up, because I had somebody who was really just doing some dastardly things to me, and so this Babalao, he he gave me a consultation, and then he hooked me up, and it was actually during this time. And so he had said, this is an auspicious time to have this energy restored for you, because you were greatly robbed of something that was taken from you, and to do it right now is important, because a lot of people believe that their God is not in the grave. And that was very eye-opening for me, and that was also what made me start looking at, like, with my tradition, with this Khametic tradition, how we we see that Wasir was in the Duat, but there was also at the same time this battle. And this particular Babalao friend, he's in Palo. So with Palo, it's just like, do what you gotta do when you gotta do it, okay? Um, In other Orisha traditions, it's that no, you sit still, you don't do anything. But see, in our tradition, that would make you a sitting duck. That would mean that you were just open to having anything happen. Okay. And speaking of open, this is Yun. This is the rabbit or the hare. And the hare is recognized in the in this time of year in what is known as Easter. You know, the whole thing with the Easter rabbit and all this other stuff. That's what it came out of Kemet. The idea of going down the rabbit hole. That's what Yun is. Okay, Yun is going down and to um, opening yourself up and then being willing to go into a deeper part of yourself. It is an initiation symbol. Yun or Wun. Yun or Wun means to open, but going into depth, okay? It's another aspect of um, like I was talking the other day about, like I said, initiation symbol, okay? But it's not the idea of the cute bunny hopping around with a basket. In fact, the symbol of a netshurt with a basket is Bast. Bast is pictured standing with a sesh, which is a sistrum, and in her other hand, she has a basket, often holding her kittens. So that came from Kemet, okay? But it wasn't the idea of the cute, hopping around, whatever. Um, but I just want to show you this. But it is not about leaving yourself open to all kinds of things like where you're likely to have something happen to you. Not in the sense where you're just like a sitting duck so that you can be prey to somebody else. The rabbit is not trying to be captured. The rabbit is clever, or the hare especially, extremely clever. You see he's got the long ears here. They're very attuned to sounds, listening. You're trying to escape and go into deep parts of the earth, but they're trying to protect themselves. And the idea also is that with Kemet, if they were going into deeper parts of the earth, that's because they were in the temple. Or if you think of the Merkut, the pyramid, and they had all the deeper levels because there were hidden parts where sacred things were going on. So the hair is going to take you into deeper parts of the temple where there were hidden workings, where you had to really be about something or somebody. You had to be somebody that was going to be allowed into the deeper realms. All right. Now, with Wasir going into the Duat, that meant that he was about to go through the deeper parts of initiation. All right. Even though he messed up and so now he lost his immortality, still he was going to go through this major transformation, um, where he was going to end up becoming what became known as the King of Heaven. Again, you have to know the story, and I will break it down to you. um, but in order for that to happen, his son was going to be the one to take him there. And in order for that to happen, his son had to go through battle with Satesh in order to win the throne. And as that happened, once his son finally won the battle, then Wasir ended up rising through the different levels of the Duat. Okay, so what does all this mean? You can't just sit back and let somebody in our tradition. I'm not knocking everybody else, okay? Because I know in the various parts, the various belief systems, you can sit back and just, and rest and honor the the what happens with the resurrection of Yeshua and all of that. And I respect that. I really do. I'm just saying from the roots of our tradition, you've got to battle. Why? Because of the fact that somebody can be out there ready to steal what is yours. This can be a time where you can have somebody who will be ready to steal what was rightfully yours. Like, I know, like, this is a whole other story. Like, my students, no, we just had a whole, some months back, we had a whole lesson about the, baka in the Dominican tradition, because we learned about the so-called little people in Kemet, and Beset, Besu, and all the etymology and all this other stuff. And so we had a deep lesson regarding the baka, and how there are people who will go and make payment to someone and then go and just steal somebody else's life, basically. Yeah. So we have prayers of protection so that you don't get your destiny stolen from somebody else. Right. So this would be a prime time for somebody to come and try to steal what was yours, or what is yours. And you don't want that to happen. Because you see, in the story, Satesh basically came and stole Wasir's life. He came, killed his brother, and stole the throne from him. You don't want that to happen. So this is where, see, Heru is basically saying, no, no, no. See, he not only stole my father's birthright, but he stole mine too. I'm coming to get me. I'm coming to get what was mine. I'm coming to get it. Okay? And in the story, there were times where Haru won, and this is where it was day. And then there were times where Satesh won, and that's where it was night. Okay? This is the time where it's a battle for your life. What was it yesterday? The lesson was, what is your life? You see the progression here? The progression here? We went from talking about the palm frond, and then it looped over from the Shanu and the Tetnot, loyalty, fidelity, and then also the shepherd's crook and Za. All right, there's a progression. And Ankh, your life. And now we are talking about the battle for your life and your birthright and holding on to what is yours. I'm just saying, for us, we don't sit back and let somebody take what is ours. Okay? You hold on to it, you fight for your life. Fight for it. I've had situations where people have taken what is mine. Okay? And I've had to get myself back together where I'm like, no, 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 no. And you may think you took it, and you may have people who try to beat you down and make you think that you're not, that your self-worth is like valueless. This is the time for you to remember who you are. Reki im ebi, I know myself. In the battle where Satesh is, he did dastardly things to his own nephew. Ugh, ugh. But Heru had to go back to his own mother, and Aset had to prop his son, her son back up. You know, I got you. I got you. All right, listen. And she would heal him. All right, and then shake it off. Come on, get back in the battle. This is where it's important to know who's got your back. Make sure you go to the right people. Make sure you have people who continue to believe in you and restore you. Chebu. Chebu is restoration, but you know what Chebu also means? Chebu also is to turn around, where it is sending the energy back. If somebody has put something out there on you, you send it back. Mm-hmm. Now, let me just tell you, because we came from Thursday into Friday. So that protection work actually for me started on Thursday night. That's why I came in, started some protective work, took a little nap, and then got up, started doing protective work. As a temple keeper, it's more extensive for me, but I'm going to give you a simplified version, all right? We're a water temple. So I have many kaut or kautu altars in my house. I have a lot of, I work with a lot of oil, a lot of incense, a lot of water. So I grab water from my temples. I refresh. I've actually been doing refreshing work on all of my altars all week. So, like I said, we're working um, altar situation. You know, we don't do the resting thing. Um, you know, well, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this. So start the week with like cleansing and then rest and prayer. Okay. And a lot of review. In general, in this tradition, it's always reviewing. Every single day, with looking at the principles, we pray, we say, we pledge every day what we're gonna do. At the end of the night, we review what we could have done better. All right, but um, so this week there have been more intense prayers, and then some days where it's just been okay, lay off, because it's like gearing up for this weekend. Okay, so today, this evening, before I came on, this was doing the Megillah prayers. So let me just tell you what I've done, and let me just share with you what you can do. Especially because I had an event to go to tonight, and my ride came late, and I said, "Oh, here we go, here we go." I told you I'm on this paratransit system. They came an hour, almost an hour and a half late. It's like, okay, so here we go. That's why when I came back, I said, "Let's get on it. Let's get on it." It wasn't about just about them coming. It was so weird the way they came late. It said energies are starting. You gotta fight this back. Fight it back. Okay. So I cleanse my house with the Lord's Prayer incense. Many of you know we have a Khametic version of the Lord's Prayer. I talked about that earlier in the week. Okay. So walk through the house doing this. I've shared with you before that I go to every one of my windows, and also I have fireplaces. Every place where there's a portal, all of my mirrors, okay? And I used to have like mega mirrors through my house because I grew up with mega mirrors. My mother was very Oshun. So, and mirrors are portals. So you want to be careful about mirrors. And because of the tradition that I was initiated in through my 13-year mentor, who I met in the metaphysical church that I graduated in as an ordained healing minister, and I mean, I had some major mentors in general in that church. I learned some serious stuff. Uh, but with my mentor, she taught me about how to do a seal. And the symbol, actually, I found out later, is the symbol for the duat. So I do a duat symbol. And those of you who are Khametic know the symbol. And if you want to learn more about that, then I've opened back up and I'm accepting students. But you have to go through a process with me so I can, because I'm reopening the mystery school. But I'm not taking any old body. Not that I did before, but I have a very stringent process. I mean, even more stringent process now. Okay, but do the duat symbol at every single window, every mirror, every both of my fireplaces, any place, you know, everything that's considered a portal. So at every one, using the wand of the incense. Okay, just and then um, like I said, I have different variations of the water for the guardians that we have, and so and I refresh that in the beginning of the week. So go through, just put your hand in, and then flick. All right, and do the Kemetic version of the Lord's Prayer, and also of um, actually I did a whole litany. Okay. If you don't have the Kemetic version, then just do the Lord's Prayer and the 23rd Psalm. Okay. So, in addition to that, I did the prayer for Kanum, prayer for Beset Besu, prayer for the Mother Master prayer, and my prayer for um, La Santa Sara La Kali, but in her Kemetic name and the Kemetic prayers in my book. And let's see, yes, that covers it. That's the full Megillah. So I started that. Um, by the time I was done, it was from Thursday into Friday. Okay, and uh, I'll be doing it again today. And another thing you want to remember is that this is the epic weekend, the epic battle weekend. Okay, so um, if you have a primary guardian that you work with, those of you who have gotten your charts done, and so who you know who governs your life, you know who governs your head, you know who governs your life, and and this is also the time when you call in all of your pereru, your guardians, your warrior guardians. You call in the full battalion. Okay, um, we don't rest. This is not the time for rest. This is the time for being in the battle. Okay, and confirming it and knowing that your life is worth it. Okay, and calling in the victory and focusing on the victory of Heru, and um, also the victory of Wasir, and also of Oset, because during this time also Like there are two versions of the story where she ends up also rising as the queen of heaven along with her husband, because he he declares once he begins rising uh, that he owes it all to his son for his awakening, uh, and also to his wife, because none of it would have been possible without her persistence in her vision, her forethought, and everything that she had sown into what ended up coming into fruition. And um, so that is how we end up protecting ourselves against all of the evildoers during this time. Because believe it or not, they're out there and they are in just full sway at this time. You do not want to let them get any kind of foothold over your life at this time. Okay? This is a time of celebrating and calling in what you want to see come to fruition. It began the other night with the full moon. Okay, see that's the other thing. This is a we're grateful it's not a new moon season, because otherwise, if there had been a void moon and a new moon, then but anyway. Okay, so does anybody have any questions right now? If not, I will bring this to a close. Okay, by reading the Khametic version of the Mother and Father Master Prayer. Dwa neb I nebet. Mutnu yetefnu reshupian tium cherit. Our chief governing Mother and Father who exist in and are of heaven. Renuechenu jeser. Your names are sacred. Per cheruchenu irebechenum tacherin pet. Your kingdom come, your will is done on earth as in heaven. Erdinu cherupen, kaunu cheru. Give us this day our daily bread. Nechaten achau herniatnu achainu. Have mercy on our mistakes as we have mercy on those who hurt us. Gutevnu emesfet, nechemnu emedet. Turn us from evil, rescue us from folly. Sutenichenu netrechenu netrichenu. Your kingdom, your power, your glorious divinity. Hekek forever. Amen, Imenit. Amen. So, if nothing else, if nothing else, recite that 3 times a day. Okay? All right. Oh, yes. Also, please protect your prayer space and do the water and the incense over your bed, um, your closet, because that's a portal area as well, over your threshold, your front door, all right? You want to get some salt, put salt over it. If you have front steps, do that. If you have a chance, put some salt in some water and pour it down your steps. I don't know. I mean, if you're in an apartment building, people may think you're crazy. But if you have a chance to do that, or if nothing else, just drop some salt down your steps. Do what you can to protect your space. All right. All right. Everyone have a really blessed and wonderful day. Blessings upon the rest of this beautiful resurrection season. Nechest, awaken and resurrect. Much love.